It's a Tuesday night. You're at a dinner party, or maybe a restaurant with old friends. The vibe is perfect. Everyone is ordering steaks, seafood, burgers. You order the roasted cauliflower steak with tahini. And then, it happens. The record scratch. The question. Oh, wait, I didn't know. Are you a vegan? In that split second, the air leaves the room. Because that word, vegan, it doesn't just describe a diet anymore. It doesn't just describe what is on your plate. It describes a political stance, a moral hierarchy, and a distinct subculture. You have two choices. If you say yes, you trigger a stereotype. You become the fun killer. Suddenly, everyone at the table feels judged. They start defensively explaining why they need protein, or they start cracking jokes to break the tension. You can practically hear their internal monologue. Great, now I have to watch what I say around him. But if you say no, you feel like a liar. You haven't eaten meat, dairy, or eggs in 5 years. You care deeply about animals. You know the stats on climate change. I've realized that the label itself has become a wall. It burns bridges before we can even try to cross them. It takes a conversation about food and turns it into a negotiation of character. That is why, even though I eat like one, I don't call myself a vegan. Let's look at this objectively. If veganism were a brand, like Apple, Nike, or Coca-Cola, it would be a PR nightmare. The modern perception of the movement isn't about compassion anymore. It's about aggression.
Our image tonight comes from the United Kingdom, where extreme activists are protesting for a plant-based future. They've thrown tomato soup at a Vincent van Gogh painting. They've now been seen dumping milk in stores.
It has become synonymous with internet comments, protest lines, and public shaming. When people hear the V word, they don't think about healthy vegetables, lower cholesterol, or saving cows. They think about moral superiority. They think about being yelled at.
Animal abuser! Watch Dominion on YouTube for the truth! Watch Dominion! Animals want to live!
This triggers a psychological response called moral insecurity. See, most people think of themselves as good people. When you identify as a vegan, even if you say nothing at all, the person across the table feels an implicit accusation. I am abstaining from this bad thing, which you are currently doing. Therefore, I am good and you are bad. Their brain goes into defense mode. This is basic psychology. When our self-image is threatened, we don't get curious, we get combative. They don't want to hear about your cashew cheese. They want to defend their grandmother's brisket. They double down on the meat just to prove a point, just to reassert their autonomy. By using the label, we aren't inviting them to dinner. We are unwittingly challenging them to a debate. But here is the mistake most activists make. We think we are just debating their ego. In reality, we are fighting their DNA.
The sounds you hear now are pigs screaming for their lives inside carbon dioxide gas chambers. You're responsible for their murder if you're not vegan, and their blood is on your hands.
But the defense isn't just psychological, it's biological. And this is where the modern movement fails to read the room. For hundreds of thousands of years, our species didn't just choose to eat meat, we survived because of it. Anthropologists suggest that the introduction of cooked meat provided the massive caloric density required to grow the human brain. The craving for fat, salt, and protein isn't a sin or a weakness. It is an ancient survival mechanism wired into our DNA. It is woven into our evolution, our culture, and our celebrations. The ability to survive and thrive entirely without animal products is a very recent development in human history.
Well, we have the perfect plant-based meat surprise for you. Introducing the impossible-to-gift gift kits. Juicy steak bites, saucy meatballs, spicy chicken nuggies with an attitude, mouth-watering spicy sausage links, corn dogs and tenders that taste so nostalgic they'll rewind life back to childhood.
It is a modern miracle made possible by global trade, year-round refrigeration, synthetic B12 supplements, and advanced agricultural science. We are living in a blip of time where this diet is even possible. Yet, many activists act as if this transition should be obvious, instant, and easy for everyone. To believe we can undo thousands of years of human biology and millions of years of evolution in a single generation isn't just utopic, it is arrogant. When we demand that society flips a switch overnight, we isolate ourselves. We treat a deep biological history as a simple moral failing. We ignore the fact that for most of human history, meat wasn't murder, it was life. It was the difference between surviving winter and starving. When we deny that history, we deny the human experience of the people we are trying to convert. This arrogance often comes from living in a bubble. If you live in a developed city, like Los Angeles, London, or Berlin, veganism is relatively easy. You have supermarkets with entire aisles dedicated to plant-based milk. You have restaurants serving impossible burgers. You have B12 supplements on every corner. You have the time to read labels and the money to pay the vegan tax on specialty items. But step outside that bubble, and the moral high ground collapses. Veganism is not accessible to everybody. In vast parts of the world, and even in food deserts within wealthy nations, there are no vegan options on the shelf. Sometimes there are barely shelves. Think about a single mother in a low-income area with $10 to feed 3 kids. She can buy calorically dense, processed meat products that she knows will keep them full, or she can buy fresh produce that costs 3 times as much and spoils in 2 days. That choice isn't about ethics, it's about economics. Or think wider. Think about isolated fishing communities on remote islands, or indigenous tribes living in the Amazon or the Arctic Circle. For these people, fishing or hunting isn't a cruel luxury they choose for pleasure. It is a necessity for survival. In these places, you can't just go vegan. You eat what you catch, or you don't eat. People there are too busy trying to survive today to worry about the abstract ethics of tomorrow. They cannot afford the luxury of our specific brand of compassion. Furthermore, there is an element of cultural colonialism here. When we tell a culture that has relied on a specific animal-based stew for 1,000 years that their tradition is evil, we are erasing their identity. The last thing a fisherman trying to feed his family needs is a Western activist shouting at him with an attitude of moral superiority. When we ignore this reality, we don't look like heroes. We look like privileged tourists judging people for staying alive.
Some of my earliest memories are of seal hunting as a family.
Canadiens assassins. Eh bien, c'est fini, ça doit cesser.
Animal groups have been fighting since the 1960s to shut down the sealskin trade.
The seal is very easy to exploit as an image.
I've never really met these anti-sealers face to face, and I have some questions.
This brings us to the internal problem, the trap of purity. In economics, there is a concept called the law of diminishing returns. It basically means that at a certain point, putting in more effort yields smaller and smaller results. Modern veganism ignores this law entirely. The movement has become obsessed with the last 1%. It's the anxiety of reading a label on a bag of chips and seeing may contain traces of milk. It's the fear of asking if the bun was brushed with egg wash. It's the intense infighting about whether honey is allowed. This obsession creates a standard that is terrifying to the average person. When they see you panicking over a micro-ingredient, they don't think, wow, that person is so disciplined. They think, wow, that life looks miserable. I could never do that. This high barrier to entry explains the high rate of recidivism. Studies show that a massive percentage of people who try going vegan eventually quit. Why? Because the rules are too rigid. The moment they slip up and eat a slice of pizza, the community makes them feel like a failure, so they just give up entirely. And here is the hard truth. That last 1% of purity requires 99% of your mental energy, but it achieves almost nothing for the animals. Consider the math. If one person goes 100% vegan, that's great. But if 10 people cut their meat consumption by 50%, that is 5 times the impact of that one pure vegan. We shouldn't be aiming for a few people doing veganism perfectly. We should be aiming for millions of people doing it imperfectly. But the label vegan doesn't allow for imperfection. It demands purity, and purity is the enemy of growth.
Those of you who've been with my journey from the beginning, you watched me transition from a pescatarian diet into a vegan diet or a plant-based diet, and things have shifted again in my life. Through the plant-based diet, I could just trust myself. But then there's also this sort of negative aspect of things, and that is perfectionism. Harshly judge myself about any decisions that I was making. You know, it felt like with the rules that I created around veganism, I would just think so much into it, and I would use it to push up against myself. Like I wasn't doing enough.
This is why I stopped using the label, because veganism has become an identity. It's about who you are. It's a badge of honor. It's about the ego. But I am not interested in my ego. I am interested in utility. I am interested in impact. When you drop the label, you shift the focus from who am I to what am I doing? This shift grants you something the radical movement hates: flexibility. If I am traveling in a foreign country, it's late at night, and the only thing to eat is a vegetable soup that might have a little bit of butter in the broth, I'm going to eat it. I'm not going to starve myself for a badge. I'm not going to throw a tantrum. I'm just going to have dinner. By dropping the label, I also disarm the gotcha police. You know these people, the ones waiting for you to wear leather shoes or drive a car with non-vegan tires so they can call you a hypocrite? When you don't claim the label, they can't call you a hypocrite. You are just a person doing their best. If I eat plant-based 99% of the time, I have removed 99% of my demand for factory farming. That is a massive victory. If I eat a piece of cheese once a year, that impact doesn't vanish. The math doesn't change just because the dogma does. So, if we don't scream, and we don't label ourselves, how do we actually make a difference? We build bridges. When you stop announcing you are vegan, you become a Trojan horse for the lifestyle. You become the safe person that your meat-eating friends can talk to. So, how do I answer that question at the dinner party when they ask, "Are you a vegan?" I usually say something like, "No, I'm not big on labels. I just really love plant-based food right now because it gives me way more energy." Notice the difference? I didn't talk about their food, I talked about my energy. When I go out to eat, I don't lecture the table. I just order the best-looking plant-based dish on the menu. When it arrives and it looks delicious, my friends get curious. They ask for a bite. They realize on their own that they aren't sacrificing flavor. That interaction is worth 1,000 protests. We need to make this lifestyle look easy, accessible, and normal. We need to show people that they don't have to change their politics, their religion, or their entire identity just to eat a tofu burger. If we want to save animals, we have to learn to like humans again. We have to meet them where they are, not where we want them to be. I don't call myself a vegan because I don't want to be the gatekeeper of a club. I want to be the person holding the door open. I don't care about the label. I don't care about the purity. I care that we are moving in the right direction. So, if you are tired of the rules, the judgment, and the all or nothing anxiety, you don't have to quit the diet. You just have to let go of the label. It's not about being perfect. It's just about doing your best. This is Veg Out. Thanks for watching.